Hello and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB on the free-to-play account, and today's video is going to be about crafting your first deck, and my first deck is going to be mono red aggro. If you watch my channel a lot, you know I don't love mono red aggro personally as a deck. In fact, it annoys me quite a bit. I get frustrated when I play it several times in a day. But there's a reason it's the most popular deck and that it gets played a lot. And that's because it is very cheap to make, doesn't require a lot of wildcards, and is competitive. So when you have a deck like that that can get you a good amount of wins, regardless of what goes on in the meta, then you really want to get into it. And I think I would be doing everybody a disservice out there if I didn't make a video about how to craft a mono red burn that is for rotation proof, so none of the cards will be rotating out, and ready for kind of the next stage of MTG Arena. If you are getting into the game and you like aggressive decks and you need to get those wins and you want to play on the ladder, then crafting a burn deck is probably a good move for you in many ways. So let's check out what I've got working here. But before we even do that, we'll show you this right now. So I've already set up what I have in mind for my deck. I am building a rotation proof mono red deck, which means that very soon, in October, I'm recording this in July, Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, Dominaria, and Core Set 2019 will be out of Standard. They will rotate out. A new set will rotate in, and it will be there with Guilds, Allegiance, War of the Spark, and Core Set 2020. Now, what happens to your cards from these sets is that you'll be able to play them in a new format called Historic, but there probably won't be a Historic ranked ladder, just a few special events and things like that. So right now, if you craft cards from these sets and use them, you'll lose those cards, or at least the ability to use them in ranked play and in most events, when the rotation happens in October. So it's very important to me right now that I only craft cards from Guilds of Ravnica Allegiance, War of the Spark, and Core Set 2020, because those are the cards that I'll be able to use for at least another year after October, and you want to get the most out of your free-to-play collection. So this is what I'm looking at for a mono red. I made a video called Rotation Proof Mono Red. It's on my main Covert Go Blue channel if you're interested in that. The cards that are grayed out here are not collected. So when I filter, when I'm looking through for how to make and craft my deck, I hit the not collected button and the collected button still lit up, and I select the sets I want to look at. Then I click anywhere outside it, and what I get is a presentation of the cards both collected and not collected that I want. So once you have that, then you can go through and select cards that you think matches your deck. Now, rather than go through the whole process of finding cards and adding them to the deck here on the video, which maybe some of you would enjoy but can be a little boring and tedious for others, I've already worked on this deck knowing what I want and set it up. Without going too much over, there's actually a lot of cards I could craft, but a lot of what I'm choosing to craft is based on, is the card useful in other archetypes? I'm trying to use my rare cards as little as possible, and I'm trying to only craft the most powerful cards. So, a few examples. Cards like Risk Factor and cards like Chandra Fire Artisan are very, very good cards and can definitely be played in your mono red deck if you open them. However, I don't want to craft them because they're rather narrow. They only fit into this deck exactly. Another card that is rather narrow is Experimental Frenzy, but it is by far the most powerful card in the deck, and hopefully if you haven't seen this go off, we'll be able to show you why. Since your deck is all cheap spells, it can let you play dozens and dozens, sometimes literally dozens of spells in a turn off the top of your deck. The other rare card that we're crafting is Runaway Steam Kin. We already have one of these, and Runaway Steam Kin is a very, very powerful rare card, and quite honestly, it can be used, it's not used in a bunch of decks, but it can be used in some other decks. And being an elemental, which is a very important creature type right now, I think it may have play in other places. I doubt I'm going to regret crafting 4 Runaway Steamkins. Why aren't I crafting 4 Experimental Frenzies? Because drawing multiples is generally bad. A lot of decks do run 4, and that's because it is one of the most important cards in the deck, but there are diminishing returns, as having the 4th copy is not quite as great as having the third copy. The 3 copies makes it, you know, decently likely that you'll draw one. 4th copy makes you a little bit more likely to draw one. 3 is kind of the magic number for me, especially for a 4-drop that isn't good in multiples. So I don't mind crafting only 3 and trying to save some wild cards for something else. So now we look at our deck. These are commons that we're crafting. These are commons. These are uncommons. These are uncommons. This is another common, and Tybalt Rakish Instigator to battle life gain decks is another uncommon. So a very cheap deck to craft. Before I even craft it though, we want to make sure that we're not going to magically open some of the cards we would spend our wild cards on. We need to use our wild cards carefully if we're going to have multiple decks in a competitive and fun way here on the free-to-play account. So before I even do that, we're going to go check out what packs we have in the bank. As you can see, I've still tried to log into my dailies during vacation, so I do have a little pile of gold going. I also have some space on my mastery tree, so we'll get into both of that really quick. Because I did the mastery tree for kind of the intro mastery tree, now we have a new mastery tree available, the core set mastery tree. And when we use an orb, we get cosmetics. We do not get the cards, so it's kind of just a style thing. So don't try to overthink it too much. I'm just going to drop you off here. I don't think I'll ever use an Infuriate, for example, so I don't know why I would need that. Shiny Murder looks nice. But just filling this up gives you some neat cosmetics. It doesn't give you the cards themselves. This is not a value train, it's a little added bonus. Meanwhile, back into packs. Let's see what we open with this Core Set 2020 pack. And not a lot going on here, so let's hope for a nice rare. Temple of Mystery will certainly be a nice rare when we build some multicolor decks. And then let's also hit up the store. So, you have 10,000 gold. This is where I spend some of it. Now, there is something to be said for drafting. Let me just show that really quick. A lot of people like to draft. You can draft. There is nothing wrong if you want to do drafts. You can go in here and do ranked core set 2020 draft, for example, or you can do ranked draft for Ravnica Allegiance. When you hit this, you can spend 750 gems or 5,000 gold, and then you'll get to open packs, pick the cards you want from the packs, build a deck with it, and play. I might do a draft video at some point. It's important to know that this series won't involve drafting very often. If you like draft and draft is something you strongly enjoy for building your collection, you should certainly draft. It's a good value and a good way to build up your cards. Plus you get to open packs and possibly rare draft and get more rares than you would normally. I do not enjoy drafting. I am a standard fiend who doesn't enjoy limited very much. So the focus of this channel will be on building your collection through grinding your dailies and using the gold to get packs. I'm not saying it's the best way, I'm saying it's the way I enjoy. I think that the way you enjoy is more important than the most optimal way if you have a strong preference in one way or another, and I certainly do. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna grab some core. You can also grab some packs from different sets if you wish. In fact, maybe because we're here on the series, I'm going to go ahead and grab a few from each of these sets just to give us some variety in our openings and possibly open some boss cards. If you have a specific deck you're focused on, you may want to buy from one set in particular to build that deck. I'm not focusing on a specific set. I'm trying to build multiple competitive decks, which is a real challenge in free-to-play, and something I think most players want, which I think will give the channel some amount of appeal. At least that's what I'm going for. Let me know in comments if that appeals to you. Over to the packs, let's crack some things open and see if we get some of the cards that are on our buy list or something else we could sub into the mono red deck first. An uncommon wild card is always welcome. A Knight of Autumn is a decent rare for green-white, but not for what we're working on today. Guilds of Ravnica. We unlock over here with our wildcard counters, keep adding to our pile. Guild Mage's Forum is not a very good rare, unfortunately. It will have to stay over here. Let's get those hot opens. Electromancer might play in a blue-red deck at some point. Connive, Concoct, it's an okay card and can be very fun. On to Ravnica Allegiance. Nothing here, although Basilica Bellhaunt's a very decent uncommon. Lumbering Battlement can be a fun rare, but is not really a very competitive one. Then over here, we've got another unlocked rare wildcard, which is really the point. Like, these rare wildcard and uncommon wildcard timers, they are what you're really doing when you're opening packs. Sometimes you get lucky and open something that you want to put in your deck, but that's not normal. Most of the time, you're filling up your wildcard counters so that you can craft exactly what you want. But there is Tybalt, Rakish Instigator, which was something on our list, so that's one thing we don't have to craft now. And a Finale of Promise, which is Mythic, and you may cast up to one target instant and sorcery card from the graveyard. Pretty fun card. I don't think it makes it in our red deck, but it can go into some other decks, perhaps Arclight Phoenix decks if we ever have the Mythics for that. A few more wild cards are nice. Ravnica at War to exile all multicolored permanents. Very narrow card, not really what we're looking to do. Next up, we see the God Pharaoh statue and Feather the Redeemed, which if we ever do a Boros Feather deck, it's good to have a head start with Feather the Redeemed. Over here, Veil of Summer is a good sideboard card if we ever do best of 3. Starfield Mystic, not a great rare. Mediocre pack. Not a lot of the things that we're really looking for. Scorch Spitter was something we were about to craft, so we get to save a common wild card there. We've seen Saphara Sky's Blade. And here comes one more. What is it? Knight of the Ebon Legion. Well, we know how great this card has been for us. And now over here, you now see that there's a Mythic wild card. Every so many that you open, every so many packs that you open, you get a Mythic wildcard timer. All right. So we're at 9 rare wildcards, 3 Mythics, 19 uncommon, 21 common. Let's go get ready to craft this deck. One card that you could make the deck better with is Lightning Strike. This card is better than Lava Coil in a deck like this that focuses on Chandra Spitfire, because Lava Coil can only target creatures, Lightning Strike can deal 3 damage to the face. However, Lightning Strike is slated to rotate out, so I'm not crafting it for the deck. But if you don't mind using some uncommons on a card that's going to rotate out soon to make this deck better today, you could certainly craft Lightning Strike. In a similar vein, let's see, there are actually a lot of cards from current mono red that are rotating. You could craft cards and use cards like Fanatical Firebrand and get to Lava Runner. And you can also get cards like Wizard's Lightning and Viashino Pyromancer, which play well with your Wizard package, and play something closer to current mono red that you might see on ladder. Another very popular card in mono red that we are not crafting because it's rotating is Goblin Chainwhirler. Goblin Chainwhirler is a very powerful card and an excellent rare, but I'm not crafting it because of the rotation. You may see a lot of this, and if you want the best red deck today, it makes sense to craft this card. The ability to deal 1 damage to each creature and each planeswalker an opponent controls can kill a lot of things and do a lot of work. Plus the 3/3 first strike for 3 mana is very strong on its own. So this is a really good card, and you can craft it if you want to. I would not be mad at you. However, on my free-to-play account, I'm avoiding spending my rare wildcards on it. A few cards, though, that we do have in the deck already, or not in the deck already, but in the collection already, are, let's see, Fanatical Firebrand is rotating, but we can add 1 to the deck now, and it can replace, I would say, a Scorch Spitter, because we don't really want to craft these if we don't have to, and we need better 1-drops, really, for the deck. Another card that we can put in the deck now, today, that is not rotating, but can replace one of the rares is Burning Prophet. Burning Prophet has a similar effect to Runaway Steam Kin in that it gets stronger and has an ability whenever you cast a spell. So I think we can only craft 3 Steamkins and try 1 Burning Prophet and see how much that actually hurts us when we're playing the deck. I do love the idea of having 4 Runaway Steamkins around, but I hate the idea of burning my wild cards. Other than that, I think I like what I see. Let's trim one of the spitters. There we go. And now we're down to just using... There's 3 rare wildcards. There's 2 rare wildcards. We already own 1 Steamkin. And then there's a bunch of uncommons and commons. So yeah, a very cheap deck to pick up overall. Are you ready to do it? Over here, we hit the craft all button. 2 common, 3 uncommon, 5 rare. Finish. And I believe we have a more competitive mono red deck that's ready to go out there and do some damage. We can always come back and craft that 4th Steam Kin later, but I really do like in free-to-play crafting 3s of my rares and mythics because I can still play the deck with 3, and if we get lucky and spike an ICR card reward or open one in a pack, we still feel good about it. Behold, in all its glory, our free-to-play mono red deck, ready to go to the ladder and take on the world. What cards did I not craft that you would craft? How would you build the deck differently? Feel free to leave comments, and feel free to check out those comments to see what other people have to say about a deck like this. Let's get ready to take on the Mythic ladder with our free-to-play mono red. And for those of you who don't like mono red or like watching it very much, don't worry. I'll be crafting other decks as well. I'm being conservative with my wild cards for a reason. I plan to make some other really fun and kind of competitive decks to play as well, as variety is the spice of life. And I want to show you how to have a free-to-play account that isn't just about spamming the same deck every day. That said, I think that most players would be right to craft and use mono red early on in their MTG experience. I hope you enjoyed this crafting video for the Covert Go free-to-play account. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.